Hi everyone, it's Marissa from bumblebeeapothecary.com, and today I'm going to talk about how I stay on top of dishes. So this has been a requested video from a number of you to have me talk about my method for staying on top of dishes, what kind of products I use for washing dishes, do we use a dishwasher or do we do everything by hand? So I'm here to share all of that and give my tips for staying on top of dishes. So if any of you have been through the GAPS diet or are currently doing the GAPS diet, especially if you start with GAPS intro or do GAPS intro at any time, then you'll know that as you're starting that process, dishes can become overwhelming. And let's just face it, no matter where you're at on a real food journey, when you make all of your food from scratch, dishes are an issue. They can be. So today I'm going to share some tips. I'm going to talk about how we do it, what kind of products we use. So let's jump in. So let's first talk about how we wash our dishes. So we do use a dishwasher. There have definitely been different seasons where I have gone without one and washed everything by hand, and I do have tips for that situation too. When we first moved into this house, it did not have a dishwasher, so there was a good long while where I was doing everything by hand. We did go ahead and decide to add a dishwasher. That is just my preferred method. I know that there are people out there who love just doing all dishes by hand, and if that works for you, that's great. My big thing is do what works for you, and I like having a dishwasher. We have a number of things that don't go in the dishwasher, of course, like our wooden plates, especially the plates and bowls that we have for babies and toddlers, and of course our cast iron. So I will come back to that in a little bit, talking about ways to kind of make dishes easier, but a lot of stuff we do go ahead and put in the dishwasher. So for washing, this can be kind of tricky because a lot of commercial dishwashing detergents made for automatic dishwashers contain a lot of dangerous chemicals and toxins, and they are one of the things that Dr. Natasha for the GAPS diet recommends staying away from. But there are some really good all-natural options that I have come across. There seems to be more of that sort of coming out these days, more good products that are safe to use. The one that I like to use, I get from Azure Standard. You can get it in different size containers, but I like to go for the bulk option because it saves money in the long run, and get the big, 30-pound bucket. But you can get it in smaller amounts too. It works really well. I've been very happy with it. It works great. It's very natural. It's very comparable to a homemade DIY dishwashing detergent, which I have made in the past. It's always hard to keep up with making everything yourself, so some of the things I do go ahead and just buy when I have a really good option to. So that's one thing that I buy, although I have made it in the past. And like I said, I love this product because it was pretty much exactly like something that you would make yourself. For washing dishes by hand, I like this dishwashing soap from Azure Standard, Smiley Suds dish soap. And again, it's very pure and natural, just, fragrance free. There's a whole long list of things it doesn't have, as pure and natural as you could get, safe for the environment, safe for us, and it works really, really well. It's very concentrated, so you don't need very much, which I really like. So that is a really good option. I will have links down there in the description box below to these exact products that I have. Any product that you would find on the Environmental Working Group's website that has a really good rating would be good to use. So that's kind of my criteria. I will leave a link to them down below in case you're not familiar with them, but the Environmental Working Group is a really great database of products that will really give you the breakdown on the ingredients and how safe they are, and it's a very great resource. So anything that they recommend, I am usually good with. And so if you don't want to use this or can't get Azure where you are, or whatever reason looking for something else, then I would check out what products they recommend. All right, now let's go into some tips that I've kind of discovered for staying on top of dishes. So whether you are washing everything by hand or you have a dishwasher, I like taking kind of a minimal approach to things. So we have, especially for the cookware, so I will use cast iron as much as possible. And I will do, this is just what I do. I'm not saying anybody needs to do this. You do what you like to do. And this may not be for everybody, but I tell you, it makes things very, very easy. And that is to take kind of a relaxed approach on washing the cast iron. It actually, I think, ends up being good for the cast iron in the long run because it keeps a lot of the fat on there it works well for us. So what we'll do is we will cook in it, and then oftentimes we will leave it and then come back and cook something else in it again. So let me explain when we would do that. So we would have our cast iron that we cooked, say, bacon in the morning, and then so you get a nice layer of bacon grease, maybe some little bacon crispies and things like that in there. And then we'll come back later and I'll want to cook burger patties in there or something. So I'll just leave that. I won't clean it out from breakfast. If I'm saving bacon grease, then I will maybe pour it off and save it. But a lot of times I'll just leave it in there, and whatever I come to cook next most likely is going to taste really great cooked in bacon grease. And so I will go ahead and fry my burger patties in there. And then after we're done cooking those and the pan has cooled a bit, I will scrape out the pan. So scrape all those cooking bits from the burger patties out and just kind of start over. I find oftentimes I don't have to actually full on wash it and scrub it with water or anything. If I'm using a lot of fat like I always do, then I can just kind of scrape out the, you know, leftover stuff from cooking until it's a nice smooth surface, and then I'll take a paper towel. If you've been with me, you'll know that paper towels are something that I do use for cast iron. They just work very well. Try to get a nice biodegradable one. Just wipe it out, and then it's ready to go. I have a video on how I care for my cast iron, which I'll link down below, and that'll go into that more in depth and show me doing it and everything. But so that's what I'll do. So that's one way that really cuts down on dishes, because then I didn't have to wash that pan from breakfast. I just used it again. And then like if we're cooking eggs or something, we'll use another cast iron skillet for that. Either one of these, depending on how much we're making. But we'll put butter in there, cook the eggs, and then I won't usually worry about washing it. I will just leave it and then come along and just kind of scrape it out, wipe it out with a paper towel, and then it's good to go. So that kind of makes things really easy. I also have the big cast iron Dutch oven, which is in the oven right now with a roast in it. And then again, we'll just kind of dump out what we need to, scrape it out if we need to, wipe it, and then it's good. And then everything else, plates, bowls, glasses, silverware, we'll put through the dishwasher. We'll wash our little wooden toddler stuff by hand, and that's what we do. We will also try to reuse stuff as much as possible. So like glasses, my kids will start with one glass that they use for water at breakfast, and then they'll continue with that glass through the rest of the day. We just keep it on the table at their place, and then they'll use it so that we're not using multiple glasses per person for water or something like that, and that does really help too. Let's talk about the tips that I found for when we're washing everything by hand, because like I said, we have gone through that for extended periods of time, either when we didn't have a dishwasher at all, or before this when we had another dishwasher that had problems a lot, and so we were left without it for a month or more at a time, on and off. So when I've had to do that, then I will usually just be like, okay, here's our plates and our silverware for the day. And then after each meal, I'll just come over to the sink, you know, not letting everything pile up and sit in the sink. When I'm washing by hand, I'll just come, I'll get my soap and my hot water, I'll just quickly wash everything off, stick it in the dish drainer, and then pull it from the dish drainer for the next meal. So we're kind of just always using washing by hand, putting back. When we have a dishwasher, then I won't do it quite that way. I'll leave things at the table that we're gonna reuse for the next meal. I'll put things that we're not gonna use in the sink. I will quickly wash by hand something that I know I'm gonna need later that day before the dishwasher. We usually, at this point, run one dishwasher load a day in the evening, and that's enough for us at this point. We may have to change that as people get older, but for now, one load a day works. But if I know I'm gonna need something before that evening load is run, I will just wash it by hand and stick it in the dish drainer. Oh, and I forgot to mention sharp knives and wooden cooking utensils too. We don't put in the dishwasher, we wash those by hand. And then I also wanted to touch on the dishes when you're starting GAPS intro, because I know that when you're first like learning all these new cooking techniques, the new foods, cooking differently than you were before, making a lot of food, because when you start on GAPS intro, usually people need a lot of food. You're cooking a lot and you're making a lot of dirty dishes. So probably my best tip for that is, first of all, to realize that that's just a short-term thing. As you get the hang of the cooking techniques and the amount of food that you need, and you kind of progress on GAPS a little bit, that's not gonna be so intense. You're gonna fall into a nice new routine of staying on top of dishes, and it will get a lot easier as you just kind of figure out what works for you. But in the beginning, Yeah, that's a lot of dishes. So just don't worry about it. Just do the best you can. Don't stress. Don't worry if it's not perfect. If your kitchen doesn't always look picture perfect, your priority is feeding your body. And if you're doing that, then don't worry about the dishes. They will take care of themselves as time goes on, as you work into a better routine. Some things that can help though are batch cooking. So batch cooking is really great. So whenever, it doesn't have to be like a whole day where you just decide to make a whole bunch of stuff, or half a day, although that is a great idea if you want to and you can. It's a really good thing to do, but it doesn't even have to be like that. It can look like whenever you decide to make a batch of soup. Make way more than you know that you're gonna need for right now. Leave out some in the refrigerator for a few more meals or however much you want, and then freeze the rest. So then you have big pot dirty, a bunch of extra meals in the freezer to be able to pull out later. You do that a few times, you have a good collection of a few different kinds of soups in the freezer that you can pull out, and that's less dirty dishes that you're making whenever you're able to do that. So make big batches, freeze a bunch of it, and then that does make it a lot easier. Another thing that can really help is making sure that you're getting the family members involved in the kitchen, helping with food preparation, helping with cleanup. This does several different things. It helps get the people who are eating the food involved in making it, which makes them more interested and more likely to enjoy it. And then it also helps you out with the preparation and the cleanup. Dr. Natasha actually talks about this when she is giving some of her GAPS coach lectures and talking specifically about helping adults who are on the GAPS diet. She talks about how people who need to be on the GAPS diet for an extended period of time, like if you're helping someone else be on the GAPS diet who's older, a teenager or an adult, she says that as soon as you can, as soon as they're feeling good and able, teach them how to cook. Don't just keep cooking for them long term. Teach them how to cook for themselves, and then also teach them how to clean up too. And I thought that was really great, because we just might tend to fall into, oh, okay, this is how it's gonna be. Yes, this is gonna be me cooking for you for this long time, but it doesn't have to be. Think about that great skill that you're giving them and the enjoyment, and just how better it is for them holistically to help with the preparation, have that enjoyment, and then also take the burden off of you too. Okay, so that is what I have to share about dishes, how we stay on top of them, how we wash them, the products that we use, some tips that I have for different challenging times when it comes to dishes. I hope that you found that helpful. Be sure and check out that description box for links to the products that I use for washing dishes. I also have links to free ebooks and other goodies. I have a free class on how to start the GAPS diet, which explains how I can help you follow GAPS. I also have a 30-day meal plan. I also have a brand new coaching membership that's already full of a bunch of amazing people. We've really been enjoying doing the live Q&As and the group Zoom calls. So if you are interested in really affordable group coaching and face-to-face kind of interaction with like-minded people, make sure to check out that link down below. If you did like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with anybody else who you think would like to see it, who would find it helpful or interesting. And if you're new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I get out new videos every week on nourishing recipes and natural living. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.